Good morning, everyone, and thanks for tuning in this morning. We were a little bit late, 4 minutes past 11, but that's due to a few glitches in the system, probably from me not being very experienced at doing this. I haven't done this for a while. But someone's phoning me as well, so that's good timing. James, how's it going, mate? It's lovely to have you on the Guitar Coach podcast. How are you? Are you well?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, really good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, just happy to be here, really.
Great. And so, James, if people don't know you or not aware of you as a guitarist, what do you do? If you can just explain sort of what you do for sort of your day to day, what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a guitar teacher. I basically teach at the moment in a primary school. Um, I've got like around 44 kids in the primary school, and then about 20 to 21 private students every week, which I teach from home, either via Zoom or face to face. Mostly face to face now that we're allowed to be back in reality, which is
Yeah,
great. So yeah,
that's just great, man. It's very similar to sort of what I do. I don't teach in schools anymore, but I have done in the past. Like, how do you find teaching in? Is it just the one school you teach in? Did you say?
yeah. So I did. I was teaching in two different schools that were quite far away from each other before, and it got a bit too much traveling and stuff. So now I'm in the one school 2 days a week. If I'm honest, it's very tiring, um, but I do enjoy it. But it does take it out of you, um, for sure. Like
Is
it's
that
hard work.
is that a full day, James? Do you do like because I used to do things like 9 till 3 o'clock or whatever it was. I don't know if you do similar sort of thing.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, 9 till 2:30 on a Thursday, and then I've got a few private students in the evening, and then yeah, Friday is kind of more of a half day. I just kind of get through everyone as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
yeah, teaching in schools is a different type of guitar teacher it takes. I feel like I find it really sort of really challenging. It was a real shock to me when I went from like private teaching to teaching in schools.
yeah,
I don't know what yours was like, but I used to have like multiple students in lessons. So you'd have like some lessons that were so oversubscribed, you'd have like 10 students in one lesson, and then they'd all turn up with their guitars like horrendously out of tune. Um,
yeah,
and you can't have the lesson without sort of trying to get the guitars somewhere near in tune.
yeah,
I don't know how long your lessons were, but mine used to be I think it was like 20 minutes or something like that.
yeah. Mine are 20 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah, and I just really find it like I really found it hard because I just found like I felt like I wasn't doing myself a good. I didn't feel like I was doing a good job because I spend like 5 10 minutes trying to tune the guitars, get it somewhere near in tune, and I don't know what
mm,
your schools are like, but mine used to say to me, if a student doesn't turn up for their lesson, you have to go and hunt them down around the school. Um,
yeah,
so I don't know if yours is the same, but I had to go like marching across school trying to get them and say, "Oh, Jimmy, you forgot your guitar lesson today," and then like they go, "Oh yeah, sorry, sir," and then they come out of the class, and then is it similar to that now, or has it changed a bit since then?
uh, it's pretty much the same as that. To be fair, the only difference is that I've got it quite good, I think, because they're in pairs and they sort. I mean, most of them kind of know their timings, even though I do have to go get them when they forget a bit. But it's a bit. I mean, it's quite a good primary school. It's in Cheltenham. It's quite a sort of high achieving primary school, so it's a
Okay.
bit more. I think the expectations are a little bit higher,
Yes.
um, if that makes sense. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit easier for me, but it's not. Yeah, I think the 20-minute lessons. I get them using a tuning app. I've got most people being able to use the guitar, the tuna fish one, the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
TUNA one.
Yes, I know.
Um, so I kind of try to get them to sort of straight away learn to use a tuning app because it just makes my ears a lot more. It's a lot better for me because yeah, everyone hates a out of tune guitar, especially some of those cheap ones.
That's what I mean because
So
I used to teach on well I'd taken an acoustic or an electric, but they used to have those little Spanish sort of classical acousticy ones.
yeah,
And some of the
little
kids like
nylon ones.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Some of the kids used to come in the morning. They come running up the stairs, and I was in the room there, and they literally just like chuck their guitar like that in a big pile, and I was like, "Don't chuck your guitar like that!" Like it was awful. Like they would chuck it, and then it was just the guitar was out of tune, and that made even more problems. But yeah,
yeah,
sometimes I used to sit there because there'd be so many guitars in that room waiting for the lessons they had all day. I would just sort of get them out of the bag and tune them up before like they came in.
yeah, yeah.
Just try and
My
save a bit
God.
of time. If I had a bit of extra time on lunch or something, I try and do a little bit like that. But it sounds like your school, to be honest, is like a quite, I say, quite a high achieving school. It sounds like
Yeah,
you know, it all depends. I feel like as well with guitar lessons in schools, like how the sort of the school supports the music system within it. Like some of them really want to keep you involved in everything in that. And
Yeah,
so I feel like some other schools maybe not. You're just sort of like a guy who comes in every week or whatever, and you're not sort of you're put to one side sort of thing. I don't know.
yeah.
It sounds like you're in a particularly good school with that,
Yeah, I
which is
think I'm
good.
quite lucky. I mean, the primary school's got 650 kids in, so it's a
Yeah,
big one. Um, it's probably the biggest in Cheltenham. And yeah, I mean, they do a lot of music in that school, so quite often the kids have already tried to play like piano or another instrument before they've even got to play guitar, even though they're only like 7. Um, so I think they're kind of a bit more aware of like instruments than like when I was a kid. I would have been like, "What's this?" You know. So
yeah,
I would have been like, probably just wanted to play PlayStation games or something.
same, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was gonna say we are live, I believe. So if anyone does want to sort of ask James a question, feel free to. Yeah, it does say it's live, so feel free to. Someone has commented. I don't know if it's. Yeah, so anyone, if you want to ask James, if anyone's watching, then feel free to ask James a question. I know it's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, so most people are working. So we said that, you know, I'm sure people will rewatch this back at a later date. But if you do want to ask any questions, just drop them in the comments, and even at a later date, I can pass them on to James, and you can answer any of them if people have any questions they want to put towards you, James. So, but yeah, so that's your sort of teaching element of your sort of what you do as well. So how about your private sort of teaching? How does that work? It sort of do you teach from your home here or?
yeah, so at the moment I'm actually living with my parents in Cheltenham. Um, I'm sort of saving for somewhere to live. Um, it's been quite tricky, as
Yes.
you probably well know, with going self-employed and teaching guitar.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm kind of saving to probably get a flat in this area, and then I'll have hopefully one room as a kind of studio, and then fingers crossed
Yeah.
that happens fairly soon. But yeah, so I'm teaching from my parents' house. They've got a basement. It's an old house, so uh, yeah, as you can probably, uh, it's kind of this is kind of the room I teach from,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, um, the private stuff's great. I really enjoy all the private stuff. I think you just because I got such a different variety of people with their music taste, their level. Um, it's sort of quite nice to be able to plan like different things, and sort of teaches you a few things as well. You sort of think, oh, how well do I know that kind of technique or type of music, or maybe I need to actually investigate a bit more and that kind of thing. So I think it teaches you just as much as it teaches other people, really.
Yeah, that's a good point, mate. I mean, do you enjoy the planning side of things as well? Like I actually do. I enjoy like writing lessons out or planning things or planning a song that a student you know really wants to learn, and you know that as soon as they walk in the door and you put it on the screen in front of them or whatever, they're gonna be like, oh wow, I'm looking forward to doing this one. Like,
Yeah,
I still enjoy that to today, even after been teaching for sort of 15 years. I still enjoy, you know, that sort of when they put it on the music stand as they walk in the lesson, and they're like, oh yeah, you can see their face just change and get really excited. So do you enjoy sort of planning lessons and things? Do you enjoy doing that sort of side of things?
yeah. I tend to use Guitar Pro to write out stuff because when I first came across it, I was blown away. I was like, oh, this makes your life a lot easier. You can actually just write out songs.
Yes.
Um, so, I mean, it's great. It's great as well for just being able to write out exercises, all the picking stuff. It's just really clear when it's written down and you can visually see it.
Hmm.
Um, so for me, Guitar Pro has been an absolute game changer for my teaching.
Is that the
I
new one? Is
really,
there is Guitar Pro 8? Is that the new
yeah,
one? Or is it?
yeah, I've got the 8. But to be honest, I think they're all kind of the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's really, really helped me. And I suppose it just means I do use some books, but it just means like if people really want to learn like a specific thing or something, and I need to be able to get access to it quickly, then I can just write it out and it's job done kind of thing. And sometimes like simplified versions of things for me,
Yes.
it would take forever if you had to like try and find a simplified version of like a Beatles song. So it's much easier just to be able to write it out. Um, make a copy, and then they can use it as a PDF, or if they've got Guitar Pro, they can even listen to it and do it that way. So yeah.
I think it's a more professional way of doing it as well, isn't it? If you got it if you sort of tailor your individual, lesson
Yeah,
plans to each of your students as well, and obviously, like you can reuse that at a later date because there'll always be students that are, very carbon copy of another student and they want to do
yeah,
similar sort of things. You can always reuse the content. Um, and I don't think there's any sort of secret in that. That obviously, as guitarists, we build up hundreds and hundreds of different resources and stuff over the years, and we obviously reuse it because we encounter students that have a similar problem to a previous student and things like that as we move forward. So
yeah,
I don't think
definitely.
there's any big secret in that. I think there's not a problem with sort of reusing great content.
Yeah,
But yeah. So I mean, that's your teaching side of things, James. Do you sort of perform live in a band or anything, or do you do any debt work, or what do you do
yeah.
that sort of
So
side?
at the moment, not really. I've kind of had this sort of tendon injury down here.
Okay.
So I kind of struggle a little bit to play for long periods of time at the moment.
Right.
So yeah, I've kind of taken a bit of a step back from doing any kind of gigging or performing, and just kind of focus really on the teaching. Um, but I was playing with a while ago, well, it's quite a few years ago now. I was sort of in an acoustic duo with somebody called Luke Elwood, who will probably watch this video, uh, and he'll be like, yeah, yeah. So I was kind of, I think that was before I moved to Bristol, but I was kind of in an acoustic duo with him. Um,
Okay.
we were doing sort of loads of Gloucestershire area sort of performing and stuff. And yeah, I've not actually been in that many bands, to be fair. Um, I was sort of in one for a bit in Cirencester. Um, I actually, when I lived in Bristol, I went, I met some guys who wanted to start up a band. I think the vocalist, was already in several bands, and he wanted to start up another one. And then I think in the end, he just took on too much stuff, and it kind of just fizzled out. And the timing and the travel and everything was just not really working for anyone.
No.
So yeah, so actually, I've done actually a lot more kind of acoustic uh, performing than I have electric, which is very strange because I mostly teach electric now. So yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, really.
Why do you think that is? Is that because you enjoy the acoustic element? It takes you away from play electric all the way through the week, and the acoustic thing sort of gives you a different perspective on maybe on a weekend if you're gigging.
I think it was maybe more before because it was just easier to sort of plug in and play. And if you had somebody who was like singing, a vocalist, it's just easier to just sort of play the songs, somebody singing, maybe do a bit of harmony. And yeah, it was just kind of the whole setup was much smoother. Didn't have to carry like gear everywhere and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it makes sense.
um,
I do because I play an acoustic duo as well, and I do enjoy that element of things. Is I still got to carry some equipment around like speakers and things like that, but it is a
yeah,
much easier setup. My ears aren't ringing after the gig. Well, they don't anymore now because I use in-ear monitors, but they used to ring playing with the band all the time.
yeah,
They'd ring after a gig, but now with in-ear monitors anyway, they don't do that. But with also the acoustic duo, they definitely don't do that because everything's much more tame and sort of held back a little bit. So it's quite
yeah,
nice sometimes to play like that. But so your injury, James, you said you got sort of injury in a tendon in your hand. Is that
yeah.
is that is that brought on from guitar? Or is that a separate issue altogether? Or
I think it probably is a bit of a combination. I think in lockdown, I went a bit over the top with practicing guitar, um, teaching, and I started trying to learn the keyboard, which I think was probably not the best idea.
right, okay,
So I think a combination of those things kind of, yeah, I felt like a really horrible feeling down there. Like I felt like I had no connection between here and my little finger, and I was really worried. I thought I'd probably never be able to play guitar ever again.
yeah.
So it was, yeah, it's still not right, but I mean, I'm managing it with some treatment.
That's pretty
But yeah,
scary.
it's just me. Yeah,
That's a pretty scary thought, really. Like that's got to be for every guitarist. Like it's crossed my mind a few times in the past. Like
Yeah.
if you get a hand injury or you get an issue like that, how scary is that? Like you might not potentially be able to play for a bit, or that's pretty scary. I'd have thought.
For me, it makes the gigging basically impossible at the moment,
Yes.
which is why I'm not doing any. So as soon as my hand gets back, I'm going to be performing as much as I can,
Yeah.
because obviously at the moment, maybe 30 minutes with chords would shatter me,
Wow.
So that's kind of most songs. Um, if you're going to do two 90-minute sets, then I don't think I'd be able to manage it at the moment. My hand would just be like frazzled. So
Yeah. I mean,
um,
I suppose like we take that for granted, but most people probably don't even think about like doing 2:45s or 2 1 hour sets and things. But it's actually
yeah,
pretty strenuous on the
sorry,
body.
240 to 245. That's what I meant.
Yeah, or even
I had
or two
90.
forty
I
fives.
had 90 minutes in my head.
Yeah, so well, 2:45s or even 2 1 hours or whatever. Like, I
Yeah,
don't think people feel like that. Don't really think about it, but it does put strain on your body. Like it's your hands and even like if you
yeah,
stood up for that amount of time as well with a heavy guitar or whatever it may be,
yeah,
you can start getting so a few aches and pains if you don't look after yourself.
yeah,
So it is difficult, I suppose. But well, I do hope, mate, you do get out and it settles down for you. Can you get out gigging again? Because obviously that'll be great for you to get
yeah,
back into that.
definitely. And for me, I want to go down more like playing electric now and being in a band and stuff. Really, I'm not so into the acoustic stuff. Was kind of like before I started teaching, really. Um, so I think now I'm much more want to do rocky stuff, really.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So
where it's where I enjoy playing as well, and so it's sort of the fun stuff, isn't it? So
yeah,
for a guitarist anyway, it's a fun place to be. But James,
yeah,
so we'll take you back a little bit now, mate, if you're all right with that. So I want to take you back to like growing up and childhood, so all the way back.
yeah.
Like how did you get into music? Like was that in primary school or was that later on in your life? How did you get into sort of
um,
music, and was it primarily guitar or did you start on another instrument first?
no, it was really just guitar. I think I remember being at school. What year would it have been? Oh my God. Year, would it been year five? It's probably yeah, about year six. So um, I went to a bit of a different school, so it wasn't like primary and then into a secondary.
Hmm.
It was a private school and it was a Steiner school. So they're like, I don't really want to go into too much detail about it because I could talk about it for a while. But basically, they have kind of their own curriculum, and
Okay.
it's more focused on sort of being a bit more creative than academic. So a lot of people played instruments. Um, some people refer to it as a bit of a hippie school, um,
Sounds like a good school to
which,
me.
yeah, actually, to be fair, um, it in a way it was kind of good because like a lot of the people there had already, knew what guitar was, had played sort of different instruments, they'd seen different instruments. Probably their parents played, a bit of violin, guitar, flute and all sorts of stuff. Maybe even like a banjo and things like that. So I think I was kind of like exposed to a bit more music and instruments without really realizing it. And I heard this lad play, I think it was Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers on the acoustic. And I saw him do it and I was like, oh, I can definitely do that. Like, I definitely want to do that and I'm going to do that. And I think I just got like a cheap guitar for 10 quid from somewhere. The action was like, way up here somewhere. You couldn't really push down the frets, but I thought it was the best thing I'd ever had. And I just kind of kept practicing. Yeah, I just kind of kept practicing. I think Chili Peppers were the band for me that I was like, as soon as I heard them, I just knew I'm gonna have to play guitar. Like, there's no way I can't play.
Yes.
So I was listening to CD Walkmans back in those days. Kept breaking all the time. So I think I bought the album By the Way. I had like a few Nirvana albums, Nevermind. Um, I had a Pink Floyd album. I think I had The Wall. Um, and I remember having listening to like Foo Fighters One by One, that album,
Hmm.
um, Black Sabbath, and those Led Zeppelin. These were the kind of bands that really got me into sort of the whole music, and I was like, oh, I want to play that and try those and power chords and all these things that everyone loves to do if they like classic rock. Um, and I think from then on, I kind of just I didn't actually have I did have some lessons. I think I probably played for about a year or something without any lessons. Then I went to a guitar teacher in Cheltenham. And I was going to say in those days, it's not actually that long ago. It's probably only 21 years ago, but it feels like it was a different era completely because you had to go into a shop and they had like a recommended list of guitar tutors, and there was only one or two. And if they had availability, then you went. If they didn't, then you stuffed. And that was it. So I found this guy from the Roundabout Sound in that's a guitar shop in Cheltenham that's now closed, unfortunately. And yeah, I had guitar lessons with him. He gave me this pop and rock book. It was like a level one or two, I can't remember. Had a picture of Jimi Hendrix on it, so I thought it was amazing. And then yeah, just kind of worked my way through these songs. It was just like simple strumming,
Yeah.
um, Elvis songs, Beatles, Bob Marley, Hendrix with a capo on somewhere, all the simplified versions of stuff. And yeah, kind of didn't really actually, funny enough, I didn't really enjoy the guitar lessons that much after a certain point. So I kind of stopped. I hope we're doing all right for time, by the way.
Yeah, no, you're fine, mate. Why do you feel
Um,
that was? Was that like, did you find it that was it the practice and outside lessons you were finding difficult to keep on top of, or was it just not enjoying the actual lesson structure itself?
I think I mean we followed this book and it was very much like we'll do this and then we'll do that and it's kind of like the next page in the book and then the next song.
Okay.
And I think at the time I was starting to get really into like Pantera and quite heavy stuff, and I think maybe he wasn't that into it. Um,
Okay.
and I just think I found it a bit samey. Uh, I was 11, I was like 10 or 11, and I kind of really looked forward to the lessons. And I think I just didn't really want to practice too much uh, what he was giving me. So I think it was just probably the wrong practice plan,
Yeah.
basically. And then I left that and I kind of just did the whole self-taught thing, bought total guitar magazines
Hmm.
with the little CDs. Um, Started just learning that I didn't know anything about music. I didn't know how to read music, or I didn't know any notes. I think I remembered what G was and A was and B was, and that's about it. So probably similar to a lot of people, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Um,
Are those CDs still in Total Guitar magazines now? I don't know if they are. I've
they're
not bought one
still
for a while.
there. I
Are they still
actually
there? Wow.
looked. They're
Okay.
still and they're still selling them in like WH Smith and stuff. I had a look the other day. They're not as good as they used to be,
Okay.
um, but they were actually. I had a look at some of the old ones that I used to get, and actually, I have to say, I think they were really quite well written
Hmm.
back in the day. So I kind of just learned with backing tracks and full tracks and listening to it and trying to copy the sound, probably with horrendous technique and all sorts of terrible things, wrong rhythms, but it was still fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and I learned some stuff. So
And did you
yeah,
go from sort of primary school into secondary school? Did you do GCSE music or did you study?
our school didn't even do GCSE music.
Oh,
So
okay.
no.
Okay.
What did I do? I was quite into sports. So I used to play county badminton. So I did a lot of that as well.
Mhm.
Um, so mm, no, I did art GCSE. I did maths and English and German. So it was a bit random, really.
Have you
But
used the
yeah,
German since you left school? Have you learned used that at all?
no, definitely not. No, I can't really remember any of it really, apart from hello, how are you, and stuff like that. Nothing really that useful.
No. No. What about
But
did you go to college, James? Did you go on to college at all after that? Or?
yeah, so I didn't really take any of the funny thing with this is I didn't really take any of the music routes. So I actually went to Hartbury and I did a sports coaching diploma.
Okay.
Uh, and then I went to uni and I did sport management as a degree.
Wow. Okay.
So nothing to do with music. I was still just kind of playing guitar on the side, um, doing a bit of acoustic duo stuff,
Hmm.
bit of performing, but wasn't really taking it that seriously, to be honest with you. Um, the kind of music part where I got a bit more serious is when I moved to Bristol, funnily enough. Um, and I realised I was terrible. I was awful at playing guitar, and I realised I didn't know anything at all. I didn't know any notes. I didn't know anything about rhythm. So I thought, okay, I'm going to sit a classical grade two guitar exam. I think I was about 24
Hmm.
when I did that. Um, wasn't really my thing. Didn't really enjoy classical guitar at all. But I sort of thought, well, if I can get through this, sort of learn a bit how to read music, not rely on tab, um, then maybe I'll go on and do, the rock school grades or something else after.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did, really. I did that, passed that grade two exam, did grade five rock school uh, whilst working in care in Bristol.
Okay.
It's all a bit random. It's not like I didn't really just study music or anything and do like GCSE and uni
Yes.
and like a lot of people. So
So
I kind of always thought I was never going to be good enough, to be honest with you, to do it, to teach or perform. So
yeah,
um,
you've obviously you are doing that now, so that's fantastic. But it sounds like to me
yeah,
like in your head you were sort of sport was your thing. That was what you were going to do. It sounded like you were like into sport. You were doing, you went to
yeah.
college and then you went to university and studying sport. Then it sounds like to me that was what you were going to do, like in your head. Like what changed your mind on that then, James? What changed your mind with the sport thing? Did that sort of something put you off or?
Um, I think for me, I realised I liked the coaching aspect. So I used to do a lot of badminton coaching.
Right.
Um, and I liked the coaching aspect, like the encouraging people to improve, work hard, kind of focus, see achieve their potential. I didn't really like kind of doing any of the like marketing or the sort of the brand stuff. For me, it was all a bit like it was all just about making money, and I wasn't really that interested in it.
Hmm.
So I did a lot of because I think I kind of realised I'd worked for a few sort of active what do you call it, like sports coaching companies
Hmm.
sort of get into sport, um, after school activities, encourage kids to be active and all that kind of stuff. Summer holiday camp. So I did a lot of that stuff. And I think when I moved to Bristol, I kind of decided I want to teach guitar, but I need to actually know some stuff before I can do that. And that's when I kind of decided I'm going to make this a full time career. Um, but I'm going to have to, actually study and work quite hard before I can do that sort of stuff. So, yeah, basically did rock school grade five, then six, and then self study. Started teaching. I had a bit of support from a few guitar tutors with like learning to read rhythms and music and stuff like that
Hmm.
because that was really hard for me. That was harder than playing, to be honest with you.
Yes.
I'm quite dyslexic, so for me, it all just looked like black dots on a page for ages.
Yes.
And I was just like, what is this dot? Why is this dot? And then one day it kind of just clicked. I just did it so much, I worked really hard. Like I worked extremely hard in the last 4 years.
It sounds like you
Um,
have. Yeah. It sounds like you've worked really hard on that sort of skill.
so I didn't just do it like once
No.
and magically learn it. I worked for since before lockdown, I've been working hard on technique and all sorts of stuff with guitar. So, yeah,
Yeah. How long have you been
still not
teaching guitar
perfect,
now,
but
James? How long have you been teaching?
so I've been teaching for It's about 3 years now.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's about three. It's coming up to 3 years. I did a little bit of teaching on the side as well when I lived in Bristol. Um, so, but properly, really, for 3 years, I would say.
That's good. I mean, James, as well. Like, if anyone needs to sort of looking for guitar lessons, you know, and want to find your service and things like that, is there where is there got a page they need to go and find, or you can go find you on Instagram
Yeah,
or Facebook,
yeah.
or
So yeah, well, I'm on Instagram, TikTok.
you're on them all?
I'm on them all. Yeah. I've got a website. Yeah. I
What
come up on.
what do they need to type in, James? What's the best place to find you? Is it a website or
Yeah. So probably just James Francis guitar.
okay?
Um, I'm sure it'll come up if you type it in.
Yes.
But yeah, or www.cheltenhamguitarlessons.com. It'll definitely come up then.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so that's kind of how I got to it. Really, it's kind of how I got to the stage I'm at. I didn't really follow sort of. In a way, I'd wish I'd done it differently,
Yeah.
um, because I think it could have been easier had I actually studied music properly from a younger age. But in a way, I think that kind of makes it better because now I kind of know how hard I had to work and I kind of appreciate what I've achieved
Yeah.
and what I'm going to keep learning and teach people and show people and what somebody can show me and I can learn from someone else. So for me,
Well,
it's kind of,
the other thing
yeah,
is we've all got our individual journeys of how we got, you know, where you are now. Like,
yeah,
it's great, and I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, you went off on a different route to begin with, went off in the sports sort of area, and that was what you're going to focus on, and then it's sort of
yeah,
your map changed, and then now you know that you're doing really well as a guitar teacher. So it's great. I don't think it matters. Like, I knew from early age that I wanted to be a guitarist and do something in music or something with guitar. I knew that, and I followed it all the way through. I did college and university, and then there have been points, James. Not gonna lie to you, there have been points where I've gone, actually, like a bit like your sports thing. I might do something different. At one point, I was thinking about being like a PT, like a gym instructor. Um,
yeah,
you know, and
but
I've a couple of times that still comes back into my head. I think, oh, I quite like to do that. I quite enjoy it. So maybe I go off on that sort of route. And then I've gone, no, no, no. And then there's always that thing of like, oh, I've done it for such a long time, music and that. I don't really want to divert. It feels like I'm diverting a little bit. But that's what I mean. Everyone has
yeah,
their own unique journey. And, you know, still to today, I'm sure that you have thoughts of, I don't know, maybe not you, maybe you don't because you said you sort of really sort of appreciate now what you're doing. But, you know, I don't know if you have sort of thoughts nowadays of what would I do if I was doing something differently now? Do you have those sort of thoughts now or not too much?
um, um, I just love what I do really. So
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything else. But yeah, I mean, I do sort of wonder what I would be doing if I wasn't doing this. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, I just think, well, maybe it was destiny.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you're very happy doing what you're doing, James. So like, and it's not, I'm not saying I'm unhappy doing what I'm doing. It's just that there's those thoughts in it. It goes through your mind thinking, if I did something else, I wonder
Yeah,
how successful that would be for me if I did a different route. Um,
yeah. Hold on a second.
no worries.
What are you doing? Dad's got the shopping bag.
No worries. That's okay. Well, we we'll start to. I said we'll start to round some of this up now anyway. But it's been, I said,
Yeah,
James, it's been lovely speaking to you. And if, as I said, if people do want to find you, if they type in Cheltenham Guitar Lessons, they'll find you on there. Or you said James Francis, was it .com or .co.uk? James Francis Guitar, was it?
yeah. So probably if you type in James Francis guitar, it'll come up, or CheltenhamGuitarLessons.com, it'll come up. Um,
Fantastic.
I
Great.
could always put a link in
Yeah, please
uh,
do. Like, drop it on the
somewhere.
comments. Drop it on the comments of this video, James.
Yeah,
And if anyone comes back and looks and watch through the video, which I feel like will happen because I said we're doing it at 11 o'clock in the morning, so most people are going to be in work. So
yeah,
non-musicians are going to be working. So people will go back, I think, and watch this video. So they may comment. So keep an eye on it as well because we may have some questions that people might want to ask you and drop in the comments. But
yeah,
yeah, if you drop your details in the comments there, James, and then we can people will find that as well.
yeah,
But yeah, James, I said it's been fantastic like, talking to you today. Um,
yeah.
and I said
It's been great.
I hope to catch you at some point because we've been saying this for quite a while now, haven't we? He's like he's saying about you need to
Yeah,
get meet up or grab a coffee or you're going to come to a guitar club or something like that. We need to sort of meet up. But
yeah, we'll definitely find some time.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what it's like with this kind of career is it's either really, really busy or it's kind of quite dead when you've got a period of, this maybe sometime in the summer. But
Yes.
basically, most of the time, it's just so full on. There's like no time
No.
in evenings. So,
No, that's fair enough. And James, just to finish off, just a little thought. What's Do you have any advice at all if you'd give your like your younger self or guitar somebody who's starting out in their guitar career, thinking about going down this route of maybe teaching guitar, performing, whatever it may be? Do you have any advice at all to what you'd give your younger self
yeah,
or anybody else? What would you suggest?
I think they should probably do your guitar coaching course. To be fair, as I would have loved something like that. Um, Oh, to be fair, I still would, but I think when I'd started, if there'd been something like that, it would have helped me immensely.
Okay.
Um, so I just think a lot of people, like myself, I kind of doubted myself with music for ages. I think because I knew I didn't know, lots of theory and all the notes. And when you talk to people that know all that stuff,
Hmm.
you feel very intimidated, like you should know, uh, and that they're somehow much more intelligent than you or something like that. But
Yeah.
really, the truth is, anyone can learn any of it.
Yep.
And I personally believe that no matter, everyone seems to, or a lot of people seem to think, people are talented or they're not. And if they're not, then they should just, go and work in McDonald's or something. But really, I think it's all a bit of a myth. I think if you are really into something and you want to work and you're willing to put the time in and work hard at it, you can achieve anything. And I
Yeah.
think with guitar, anyone can be whatever level they want to be. I'm not saying it's easy, uh, but if you're willing to put the work in, then it is possible. And actually, I think you can do it within 5 years.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Uh,
That's great advice, James. Like I agree
yeah,
with you, like 100%. I agree with you. Like anybody can do it, and I do feel like, and I'm sure you agree with this. I do feel like there are students that sometimes walk through the door like absolute geniuses, like on guitar. They just naturally
yeah,
pick things up. There are people that naturally do find things easier. Like that 100%. I've seen that. I've seen people walk through the door, and within one lesson, you've given them something, and they've absolutely mastered it, and you're like, that's crazy. Um,
yeah,
and I've seen that, so I know that exists. But as you said, that doesn't account for hard work. Somebody who maybe less musically gifted, I suppose, is the word, or as you said, talented.
yeah.
Like they have to work harder, but they can still achieve really great things.
That's definitely me. So
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
me in a nutshell.
But that's great, and you've worked hard though, and you've the result of that is you've now got a successful teaching business. You're teaching in the school, and I'm sure at some point you get back into performing live as well once the injury sort of calms down a bit for you. So
Fingers crossed.
yeah,
Yeah.
fingers crossed, exactly. But
I can't cross that finger
no.
there.
Awesome. Well, James, as I said, it's lovely, mate, speaking to you, and I'll let you go now because I know
Cool.
it's
Yeah.
your time in that. But yeah, if anyone does
Sun's coming
have
out
any
as well.
comments in that and any questions they want to ask James, please drop them in the in the comments of this video, and I'm sure James will keep an eye on it as well, and we'll comment back with any sort of any answers and things. But yeah, James, thanks very much for being like the first guest back. So
Yeah.
I started this a while ago, and then things got busy as we were talking about, and then I stopped it, and I really enjoy doing it. I enjoy talking to other musicians and finding out about their past and how they got into music. Everyone's journey is unique, and it's interesting to listen to. And I think other musicians as well also enjoy watching these back or listening to them and sort of thinking some of it they can relate to. I think it really helps. Like some of it they relate to. They go, "Oh, I sort of do those sort of things," and "Oh, I came from that sort of past as well." Or mine's a little bit different to that. I think it's really quite nice to watch this, and I watch them as well. Like I'll watch videos very similar to this,
Yeah.
just to find out a bit more about other musicians and things. I quite enjoy it. So, but yeah, I will be doing more of these. So you're the first guest, James, back. So congratulations on that. Um, and hopefully, I haven't taken up too much of your time today. But thank you very much, James, for being a guest, and I will look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you
Thanks.
very much. Take it
Cheers,
easy,
James.
Richard.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.